Richard Kist, United States Marine Corps, World War II. I interviewed Richard December 9, 2004 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He served with the 4th Marine Division and landed on Iwo Jima February 19, 1945. Richard has a gripping story, one of my favorite all-time veterans, one of the first veterans I interviewed for my Iwo Jima project. We were on the QVC shopping network together, and he also attended our premiere showing of the Iwo Jima film, Camp Pendleton in California in 2005. I miss Richard like all my veterans. I'd like to thank Barney De Amos for making this story possible. Barney, thank you for your support and your patriotism towards the country, and in memory of your father, Frank. I salute you, sir, and I thank you for making it possible for many others to hear Richard Kist's story. Folks, if you'd like to become a sponsor, please, there's information in the video description and in the comment section. Don't just expect somebody else to do it. So you're watching this, you're being blessed. Many of you have been blessed. Some heartfelt comments, many heartfelt comments from you. I know you're out there. I would please ask you to at least consider sponsoring one of the many stories that I have so we can bring forth the whole collection eventually. All right, well, sit back, folks. This is a great story. Dick Kist tells of his landing on Iwo Jima and what he encountered there. He was wounded. He received a Silver Star on Iwo Jima, and he's, like I said, one of my all-time favorite veterans of World War II. So thank you for watching, sharing these videos, subscribing to this channel. God bless you. Fourth Marine Division, was it a part of a regiment? Which regiment were you with? How do you say this? Now tell me what you're with.
Well, it started out when the 4th Division was formed. I guess you probably heard this already. Some were trained on the East Coast and some on the West Coast.
Okay.
And then we joined together on the West Coast. And my outfit, we started out as a 20th Marine Engineers.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, after Saipan and Tinian, they changed the name from the 20th Engineers to the Pioneers. Why and where that comes in, nobody don't know. But that's about it, I guess, on that.
Okay. What rank were you during Iwo Jima?
I was PFC, okay. Praying for Civilian.
That's what that stands for.
That's okay. Right. No, we had a different meaning, though. Yeah. I won't say it.
Okay. Okay. Dick, tell me now. You went in on D-Day.
Yes,
February
sir.
19th. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's back up to the day before. Just the best that you can remember, tell me, where you were, you're on a transport ship, how you felt, what did you think you were going to get into the next day? What were they telling you?
Well, we just figured, we didn't know why we were going to Iwo Jima. We never heard of it. Mm-hmm. Well, matter of fact, we never heard of any of the islands. Mm-hmm. But we just figured it was going to be tough because we knew it was a lot closer to Japan than the others that we were in. Mm-hmm. And this was one of Japan proper, should we say. It was part of Japan. But we just figured it's going to be another battle like it was in the Marshalls or on Saipan, Tinian, but it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. So the night before, what's going on? Are you playing cards? You had a prayer service?
We were playing cards. Yes, we played cards all night. Mm-hmm. I was on an LST. And so we sat up all night and played cards, played pinochle. You go ahead and ask a question and I'll answer.
No, that's good. Why weren't you at a prayer service?
Sir?
Did they have a prayer service on board before you went in? A priest or a chaplain talking, or?
Well, that I can't say because the officers were pretty much to themselves, and us enlisted men were to ourselves.
What were your thoughts? Were you thinking about the next day that you might get killed? What were you?
No, I didn't. I didn't think of being killed, but you do think. You don't think of being killed. You'll think of maybe being wounded before you do killed, but you never know whether you'll come back or not. So, but you just hope you do. And one of our replacements that we got after Saipan and Tinian, the man was, if I remember correctly, he was from Tennessee. He was married, and when we left, we're getting ready to leave Maui for Iwo Jima. He wanted to give me his wedding ring in case he got killed, that I could send it home to his wife. So I says, don't give me your ring. I said, turn it in at the office and let him put it with a company gear. So you may not, I may get killed and you may not get a scratch out of it. Well, it did turn out that, as far as I can remember, he didn't get a scratch, but I got hit. But I didn't get killed. That's one thing that was fortunate. At least I was able to come home and see the good life again.
What did they give you a breakfast? Did you sleep that night? What went on?
You don't very well do much sleeping the night before because you're thinking about it. But we did. We got breakfast, yes. But go ahead.
Then tell me about the actual landing. Going in, did you get on a Higgins boat, an LVT? Tell me about.
No, I call them an amphibious tractor. There are these things with these lugs that because your Higgins boats, if you've got reef there, you can't get in on a beach. But these things, they go through the water and over the reefs and everything. See, and on the land. Then when you get onto the beach, the first ones ahead, you jump over the sides to get out, and then they came out with where the back would drop down. So the one that I was on, the back dropped down when we hit Iwo Jima, and this replacement was on the tractor with me, and all of a sudden, even before we got off, a guy got hit. One of the fellows got hit. He says, "What will we do?" I says, "Get out of here! Get off of here! Get out!" Because these equipment is the first thing that the Japanese go for. Any vehicle, any piece of vehicle equipment, they go for as soon as they can. And I was a demolition man. I had a pack on my back filled with TNT. But that TNT didn't worry me, because that won't go off. TNT won't go off unless you put a cap in it, a detonating cap. And that's the only way a TNT will go off. But you can shoot into them, and they won't explode. Where dynamite will. So we got off of the tractor, and got in and tried to dig in. Tried to dig a hole, and you couldn't, because that sand just kept washing in, washing in. And what my biggest worry was those detonating caps, because they were filled with nitroglycerin. And too much jarring or heat could set them off. And I sure didn't want them to set that TNT off. So I just wiggled the pack off my back and shoved it aside and continued trying to dig in. Then laying there on the beach, I looked up the beach and I saw something up there, and I thought to myself, what is that? And I kept looking and couldn't figure out what it was. So finally, after laying there for quite a while, I got up and walked up the beach. And what do I find but a Navy corpsman laying there, his right arm missing. Now, how he lost his arm, I don't know, because he was up there all by himself, nobody else around. See? And that had me bewildered. What's he doing up here by himself? So I talked to him for a few minutes, and then he said, give me a shot of morphine. Give me a shot of morphine. I said, have you had a shot of morphine yet? Because you can't give them too much. And he says, no. I said, okay. So that little pack that we carried on our belt had a little first aid kit, I should say, had a little tube of morphine in it. So I struggled, and I gave him a shot of morphine. And we were told, when you do that, to mark it on their forehead that you gave them a shot of morphine and things. Well, the boy could talk. So I says, now, be sure you don't let anybody give you another shot. And he says, I won't. So after talking to him for a few minutes, I says, well, I'm going to go on back down the beach, and I'm going to try to get you some help. So on the way down the beach, I run into a buddy of mine. He was my demolition man too. Him and I went to demolition school together. And on the edge of his helmet was a clunk of shrapnel, right on the side of his helmet. See, and I said, "Hey, Chase, what are you doing there?" He said, "What?" He didn't even know that thing was wedged in his helmet. And if it had been down a little bit lower, it would have missed his helmet and got him pretty much in the temple or something. So we shot the bull for a few minutes, and I went on down the beach end to try to get this corpsman some help. And I never saw my buddy Chase again. So as I got down the beach, some of these fellows, some of them from my company, they were laying underneath this tractor, where, like I told you before, the back would drop down. I says, you know, this is a heck of a place to be. I says, because, you know, this is the first thing the Japs try to knock out. And I said, if one of a mortar shell or something hits back here, it could hit the bottom of this and ricochet down on you. I no more got that out of my mouth than one of them up underneath there says, "Dick, I'm hit." So I got up and started running away from there, and as I started running away, I got hit. And to me, it felt like a million needles going through me. And I really didn't know. I knew I was hit, but I didn't know what was what. And after I got out on a ship, well, here I was hit here. I had a big gash down here. Thank God it was over there, because it could have taken my manhood if it had been a little bit to the side. And a piece went in my leg, back of my leg, and traveled down and tore the heck out of my ankle. And then after I got aboard ship, the first person I saw was one of my buddies from my company. And well, his whole insides was just blown. But he wasn't dead yet. And a couple of minutes later, either a corpsman or a doctor came up to look at him, and then he just covered him up. So I knew he was gone. But that poor kid didn't know what hit him. So then, aboard ship, I felt back here, and it felt like a big blister. So, as a corpsman passed, I said, "Well, what's this on the back of my foot?" So he looked and he says, "Now wait a minute, don't go away." He said, "Don't go away." He says, "I'm going to go see a doctor. I'm going to get a doctor. Now you stay here." Where was I going to go? So when the doctor came, and a chaplain was with him, and the doctor starts poking around. He said, "Does this hurt? Does this hurt?" I said, "I don't feel a thing." "Does this hurt?" "Don't feel a thing." And then he started, well, I thought, oh, brother, the language that he was using with the chaplain there, you wouldn't think. Oh, he called them the chaps all kinds of names, and he says it's probably some of the scrap iron that we sold them is probably what this is. So he kept poking around and poking around. "Does it hurt? Does it hurt?" I said, "Doc, I don't feel a thing." So all of a sudden, he pulled out I guess a piece of shrapnel about the size of my thumbnail. He just pulled it out of my ankle, and he looked at it, and he's cussing these Japs again some more, and he says, "You want this?" I said, "Yeah." I thought, gee whiz, if I might as well keep it as a souvenir. So I had to lay there, but he said, you can move around, but he said, try to stay off of it. Well, I couldn't walk on that, so I wanted to go up on the top deck and look out at what was going on. So I had to. I went from foot to knee, and after I got up there, all I could do was hop on one foot. So I hopped over to the edge and looked, and all of a sudden, there there was Old Glory flying up there on Mount Suribachi. Boy, what a beautiful sight that was. But there wasn't anything to see. I mean, you couldn't see anything. All you could hear was the shelling, the bombing, and the shooting. And then I got tired, so I went back down, laid down. And I guess we were there for a few days before we got loaded. And was taken, we didn't know where we were going, but we wound up going down to an army hospital on Tinian. Now Tinian, we just got finished taking Tinian not long before that, see? Or I should say the year before, or that was our last operation. And that's where the B-29s would take off to bomb Japan. So we didn't know why in the world we take an island like Iwo Jima. Nothing there. And well, then after it was all secured, and we found out why. Well, there was a good reason. And that looks like my map there.
That's John's map.
John, yeah.
Now, when you were wounded, it was an artillery shell that in the shrapnel. Is that what
I
happened?
don't know if it was artillery shell or whether it was mortar, but it was a piece of either mortar or artillery. I take it was a mortar because I figured an artillery shell would have been a bigger piece. But it went down and it cut all the muscles, ligaments, and everything in my ankle.
Now, Dick, tell me about before you were wounded. You weren't there long, but I mean, when you landed on that island, on that beach, were you scared? Were you focused on what you needed to do? Were other men were the Japanese firing at that time?
No, everything was quiet. Everything was quiet, see, because the Japanese were holed up because of all the shelling that was going on, so we could get on the beach. But after we got on the beach, then after they, like our shelling had to ease up and things, and then the Japs come out and started firing on us because they were, like I say, ours had them holed up. But then that's when I walked up to see what this object was up on the beach.
Why do you think the Japanese waited until everybody was on the beach before they started firing?
Well, if they would come out, if they come out too soon, then maybe our shelling would knock them out. So they waited until it was safe for them to come out. And then anything that's on the beach, especially like jeeps or equipment, is the first thing that they try to knock out.
So they purposely did that. They waited.
Right. Yeah, they did that in every battle that we were, operation that we were in. That's the way it worked. See, because our shelling has to ease up at a certain time because they can't be shoot into us. So when ours eases up, then the Japanese come out.
Tell me about the island, the volcanic ash, and what it was like walking through that stuff. What do you remember?
You couldn't. It's just like walking in loose sand. And you try to dig a hole to get down in, and the sand just keeps washing in. and you just can't dig a hole. So you continue laying on the top.
What about the smell? Was there a smell?
I don't recall a smell. No, to be truth, I don't recall a smell. No.
Well, you're a young man. You're in combat. I mean, what gets you through the difficult stuff? Just your training, your faith in God. I mean, how are you focused on what you need to do when people are being hurt and killed around you? I mean.
Well, yeah, I think what you do is what comes to your mind. You're thinking about saving yourself, because nobody was hit around me at that time, because the Japanese weren't out yet. So it was pretty safe on the beach. For a while, it's safe, but when they come out, the Japs come out, and start firing back. Then that's when hell all breaks loose, because our shelling from our ships and things has ceased. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking as you're talking. You've already kind of told me a little bit, but the reason we needed that island was because of the bombers and just this being positioned closer to the mainland of Japan. And
well, see, when I was in the Army hospital on Tinian, we used to sit on the hillside and watch the planes, the B-29s, take off to go up to bomb Japan. And they all had a pass over Iwo Jima, or in that area. So when these squadrons of B-29s are heading up towards Japan, the guys on the Japs on Iwo Jima radioed or sent messages back to Japan, warning them that our bombers were coming. So they had plenty of time for their fighters to come out and intercept our 29s. So that is the reason we had to take Iwo Jima, to knock them out. And I wasn't there at the time, but I was told that while the fighting was going on Iwo Jima, a B-29 landed on one of the airstrips. So that is a reason, because there were so many bombers damaged so bad they couldn't make it back to Tinian. And they lost so many planes and airmen. And I can see that, why we had to take it then. But then after, there was an article in the Cincinnati Post one day, and it just happened. A reporter I knew, who I knew his dad real well, did an article on me, and my picture was on the front page. See? And it was just right. It was a write-up about our Purple Heart chapter and this and that. And all of a sudden, I received a phone call. The guy said to me, he told me his name. He said, "I'm calling from Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania." I thought, where in the world is Clifton, Pennsylvania, or Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania? But he said, I was looking at the on my computer. And I picked up the story and the picture of you on the paper. And I just wanted to thank you. I said, what for? He says, well, if it wasn't for you Marines, he says, I wouldn't be here today. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And he says, I think the world knows of you Marines. Because he says, I said, by the way, how did you get this information on me? He said, on my computer. He picked it up. I guess those computers, they must be all right, but I don't want no part of it myself. I don't even know where to turn the switch on. But he said, if it wasn't for you guys on Iwo Jima, he said, I wouldn't be here today because my dad was a pilot of a B-29. And they were shot up so bad that they had to land on Iwo Jima. They couldn't make it back to Tinian. And he says, so I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you guys. So,
What a story.
but then I heard, so that is, we found out that is the reason we had to take Iwo Jima, is because we were losing too many B-29s and too many men, which I also read where the Air Force had more casualties than any branch of the service. But I still get letters from that fella.
Tell me about freedom. What does freedom mean to you, Dick, after all these years, looking back in our country today?
Freedom to me is you got the freedom to do this or do whatever you want to do within the law. And you don't have some numbskull telling you what you have to, what you can and can't do. Now I don't know. I may be jumping around too much, but we were told. I don't know if you remember or not, when Japan invaded China, and they raped the women, and I can remember seeing pictures where babies were thrown up in the air, and the Japanese caught them as they come down on their bayonets, killing the babies and things like that. Well, we were told those were the guys that we fought on Saipan. So we didn't have any pity on them at all.
Have you ever talked to young kids about freedom or at the school here? I mean, what would you tell a young person today about our freedoms and the sacrifices that were made in World War II?
Well, I to tell you the truth, when we visited a school, like it wasn't long ago, we visited C.O. Harrison School. And when a teacher says, well, now, Mr. Kist, you can start talking to the kids, I says, if you don't mind. Now, these were 3rd and 4th graders. They don't realize what's what. I says, if it's all right with you, I will let them ask the questions and I will try to answer them the best I can. And that way, you can answer them more in their category. I mean, you won't talk to them, say stuff that's over their head. Just like this year, we talked to the kids, and one of my friends, one of my Purple Heart buddies, brought a hand grenade in to show to the kids and explain how they work. Well, that's going over their head. But one of the kids held his hand up and says, well, what was in the hand grenades? What's in them? I says, TNT, same as dynamite, same thing as dynamite, same purpose. But so you got to talk to the kids in their language. Not you can't talk to them because they don't understand. So you got to answer them some simple answers. And
What about taking our freedoms for granted? Don't you think a lot of us do that? And you saw the price for freedom, and you know the price. I mean, how do you communicate that to society?
We were raised under freedom that you don't realize the freedom that we do have. And a young kid coming up, they don't realize the freedom. They just, it's over their heads too much, I think. We ourselves, we do realize the freedom that we have. And like they say, freedom is expensive. And when you look at lives, you have to agree. And to this day, as I was talking to the gentleman out in the other room there, to this day, there's so many people that don't know that the Japanese was in Alaska. They had a couple of the islands in Alaska. But we didn't know that because a couple of prisoners we took, they says, well, you might be winning here, but we're still in America. And we thought, what kind of bull is the government handing us? So then we found out what probably the Japanese were talking about being on the island of Kist and that too. And that must have been awful rough up there. It was cold, you know, the weather and stuff was so bad. Because one of the fellows from my church and one of the fellows I worked with was up there, and they told me about it. So, but I didn't know. I myself didn't know that they were in Alaska.
Do you consider yourself a hero?
No. What happened? I worked in a foundry. And there was 3 of us came into work. We were changing our clothes to go to work. And we decided to go down and join the Marines. And so we went down and joined the Marines, and we came back. We saw the superintendent. He said, what do you guys don't want to join the Marines? He says, I can keep you out of the war, because we were doing war work, see? And we says, well, he says, well, you guys won't pass the test anyway, the examination anyway. We says, we already took it and we passed, and we leave in a week. Well, when we said that, his lip hit the ground and he turned around, he walked away. He didn't want any part of us. But I don't feel like we're no hero. We had a job to do, and you do what you're told. You may not like it, but you do what you're told. It's not like if your mom or dad tells you to do something, you can argue with them, but you can't argue this way like you can at home. You may not, like I say, you may not like it, but you do it.
Could I ask you to do a salute for me with your hat? Put your hat on.
Well,
You didn't get George. You didn't get that. Just you can. I'm gonna have you look into the camera though, Dick. Okay? And just you can do a salute and then just hold it and then release it after about 3 or 4 seconds. Okay. Good. Do it one more time, sir. Great. Thank you. I like that hat, don't you?
see, so many when they salute, that this finger is supposed to hit the tip of your cap above your eye,
Okay.
and then they go. Instead of it's just supposed to come right down.
It's supposed to come right down.
Right, just come down quick.